you what I want you.
On behalf of Mayor Pro Tem Clark, my fellow commissioners, City Manager Madrid, our clerk Renee Canton, I would like to welcome everyone here this morning to our September 25th, 2019 business meeting. It is now 9 a.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Whitehead.
Here.
Honorable Kathy Clark.
Here.
Honorable Rob Heschler.
Present.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Here.
Honorable George Cicchetti.
Here.
Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Oh, I missed number 2. Let's go back a little bit. Would you please join me in 15 seconds of silent meditation? Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item number 4, the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted for September 25th, 2019, or are there any changes?
I'd like to move that we approve the agenda with suggestion. It's too short.
No. I object. Objection.
Well, we could have more too.
Mayor, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the agenda as written.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns?
I'll second that while we're here.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Oh, she already did it?
Yes, sir,
Oh,
but
okay.
thank you, that's the second. All right, hearing no other questions or comments, motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is item C1, presentation. This is a presentation of the annual film report. Harry Jagger-Gusson, Tier C Film Liaison. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. Renee, good morning. Mr. Madrid, good morning, Kathy. It's an honor to be here. And I have to tell you, I've been here dozens of times and I'm always nervous to speak in front of you. I apologize for not reporting sooner, but there's been no activity in our area. September last year, Disney Studios Firelight filmed here for 2 days. The details are in your packet. And we estimate 120 people worked here and spent approximately $240,335.60. And those details are in your packet this morning. I'll just point out, for instance, we asked somebody, well, what did you spend today? And they said, well, coffee, cigarettes, about $62. And they were here 11 days. So if you add that up, that's $81,000 they spent just buying stuff for themselves. So it's a major impact when they come to film in a little community. On the state level, there's lots of activity. Netflix Army of the Dead is filming in Albuquerque. 500 New Mexico crew, 20 New Mexico actors, and 2,000 background talent. And Netflix projects 1,000 production jobs yearly in New Mexico. And they've taken over a large building up there, so they're a big presence in our state right now. NBC Universal has entered a 10-year partnership with the city of Albuquerque for an empty warehouse. The build-out will be a state-of-the-art film television studio and will create some 330 jobs. May 30th of this year, Todd Christensen was made head of the New Mexico Film Office. He has scouted and managed locations for all the major studios, and he has worked on 10 movies here in New Mexico. July 1st, the state has revised incentives for filmmakers. It doubles the amount of money that can be paid and allows reimbursements up to 35% for certain expenses. If a movie company signs a 10-year deal with the state to make movies, the cap will disappear. The Film Office will host liaisons to the yearly conference, the 27th and 28th in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and I plan to attend. And next year, during your budget talks, I will request a small line item to travel with and also ask for the area entities to help with the website hosting and maintenance. The website is cutting edge and greatly benefits the area, and it showcases all of our locations in a great light. The county has been paying for that for the last few years, so I think our different entities should share in that. And with that, I'll stand for any questions you may have for me.
Thank you, Mr. Guston. Are there any questions from the commission?
I have, Mayor, a couple of comments. You know, Carrie Guston, I've sat and stood where you are and sat here. And it's weird, because every time I'm standing where you are, I get nervous. When I'm sitting here, I'm not. So I just appreciate that.
I've literally appeared before you guys dozens of times, and I try to prep myself the night before and stand and talk and calm down, calm down. They're friendly people. They're not going to holler at you unless you've done something really bad. And I just get real.
But I totally get it, so I appreciate your comment. But the other thing that I would like to say, and I'm saying this on behalf, I'm sure, of a lot of people, is your incredible dedication to the film industry. Since I've moved here, you've been on that particular venue, and you don't give up.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just think that's so commendable, and I just want to thank you from myself
Thank
for
you.
not giving up.
Thank you. I believe I'm the longest serving liaison in the state. I think it's 26 years for
I think
me.
probably so. So that says an awful lot for you, Mr. Guston. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Commissioners.
You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our next item, item D, consent calendar. We have D1, City Commission regular minutes, September 10th, 2019. D2, acknowledge the Public Utility Advisory Board minutes of August 19th, 2019. And D3, accepting into the minutes the final adoption of the FYI 2019-2020 budget as approved by the Department of Finance and Administration, DFA. Do I have a motion to accept these, or is there anything that we need to discuss separately?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the consent calendar as noted. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item E, public hearings. E1, public hearing, discussion, action, final adoption of ordinance number 706, amending section 11-16 of the Code of Ordinance pertaining to disposal fees for residential commercial haulers. City Manager.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is an item that was brought before you for publication at a previous meeting. It is now on our agenda for final adoption. I will refer any questions to our attorney.
Yes, I'll give maybe just a brief overview of what this
Please.
is all about.
Thank you.
And good morning, everybody. This is an ordinance which is amending section 11-16, and basically what we've done, we've deleted several of the subsections in this ordinance because actually the items that are addressed within are actually addressed in other portions of the Code of Ordinances. Under the old ordinance, you had 7 subsections, A through G. So let me just kind of walk you through what we've done here. Subsection A are the definitions, and that stays the same. Subsection B is being deleted because basically it's obsolete. It talks about a 2010 resolution involving disposal fees. And what I will mention really here at this point is that within the last couple of years, we adopted Ordinance 636, which addresses collection fees and haulers. And basically, that really now is the main ordinance which addresses most of these fees. So that's one reason why, like I was saying, while we're deleting some of the subsections from this particular ordinance. Subsection B is the same as the old subsection D. All I did was just move it up. Subsection C is being deleted. It's no longer necessary because, as I mentioned, we have Ordinance 636, which addresses this particular issue. Subsection C, tire disposal fees, is basically a rewrite of the existing ordinance. There was a few small changes that we added here. And then D, E, F, and G are all being deleted because, again, they no longer are applicable due to the enactment of Section or actually ordinance 636. So, and I believe, and I suggested this, and I think that this happened, I believe that the city clerk has provided each of you with a copy of ordinance 636, which does set forth the fees I've just been addressing. Let me just see, I know I've got a copy here also. Yes, here it is. That's the ordinance that was entitled Solid Waste Collection Center Fees, and it does give you all the fixed prices that are now applicable. So again, with the existence of 636, we really don't need a lot of the provisions that were existing in 11-16. That's why they're being deleted, as I've indicated. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Rubin. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? And I do not have anybody signed up in the public hearing as an opponent or proponent. Is there anybody that has any questions, comments, concerns? No? All right, I will stand for a motion to approve final adoption of ordinance number 706, amending section 11-16 of the Code of Ordinance as presented.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the final adoption of ordinance number 706 as noted. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Wyatt.
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clark.
Aye.
Honorable Ralph Mishler.
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca.
Aye.
Honorable George Takei.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all. The next item on our agenda is item F, ordinance resolutions and zoning, discussion action, ordinance number 709 for publication, authorizing the sale of real property pursuant to an MSA 1978 3-54-1. City Manager.
Mayor, may I walk out on this one, please?
You may. Thank you.
Will you call me when you're done?
I will.
Thank you.
Mayor, Commissioners, I'm going to call on Tracy Burnett to come and give us the background on this sale of property.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. As you know, we've got various city properties out there that the city owns, and we've had advertisement on some properties, and some properties we've had residents or people that have reached out and have been interested in the possibility of purchasing property. When that happens, with Mr. Madrid's directive, I go ahead and pursue an appraisal on the property. The appraisal for this piece of property was done. The appraisal came in at $26,000, and we received an offer to purchase for the appraised price. So this is the next step in proceeding forward with the sale of that property. The proposed buyer is in the audience if there is any questions, and with that, I'll stand for questions as well.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Are there any questions, comments, concerns from the commission?
And I'll add a few points here. What's before you is proposed ordinance allowing us to go through with the sale. So what we're asking to do today is to go to publication on the proposed ordinance. And also in your packet is the purchase agreement. And what's going on legally is, we're selling this pursuant to the provisions of section 3-54-1. And because the appraised value came in slightly above the $25,000 threshold, as set forth by statute, we have to go through this procedure. It has to go through the ordinance procedure. And this is basically similar to the ordinance I've drawn up for other sales of property. If you want to take a quick look at the ordinance on subsection B, we describe the real property. We're talking about the intersection of Wyona and Clancy Streets. As Ms. Burnett points out, we have a negotiated purchase agreement, and the appraised value is $26,000, and that's what the agreed purchase price is. And as per my usual provisions, I have in there the closing costs will be paid by the purchaser, and that we're selling the property in as-is condition. We're not making any representations regarding the property, the status of the forest title, or the feasibility for development. Those are disclaimers I've placed in all of our ordinances. And the purchase agreement pretty much recites the same things what the ordinance says. A couple of small typos I just want to bring to your attention. So if we approve of this, we need to do this with the changes on subsection B. I said Wyona venue, this should be avenue. Same mistake was made in the purchase agreement. And then one other change was in paragraph D1 in the purchase agreement. The city acquired the subject real property by virtue of a condemnation. That's the word that should be there.
Thank you, Attorney Rubin. Are there any further questions, comments, or concerns?
Just a quick comment from me, Mayor. Seems like a year ago, we were getting offers for property at half the appraisal value. It's nice that the trend for the last couple of properties has been at the appraisal value. I hope it's something that continues, and maybe something's underfoot in this community. I'm sure hoping that it is.
Me too.
Thank you.
And I would just say, I appreciate the patience of the purchaser. You know, I apologize, we have to go through this procedure, you know, it's just like it's mandated by statute that we have to go through the original procedure, the publication, then it's got to come back to you next month for final approval, and then they still have to wait 45 days from that point before actually the ordinance is effective. So, you know, there's nothing I can do about that. We're just, you know, we try and move these things along as quickly as we can, but that's just a limitation that we're stuck with.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Rubin. Are there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, I will stand for a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move to approve for publication ordinance number 709, authorizing the sale of real property pursuant to NMSA 1978 3-54-1 as presented by City Manager Madrid and Ms. Burnett.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
A second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 709 for publication authorizing the sale of real property as noted by Commissioner Zaghetti and Manager Madrid and Tracy. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, I'll vote. Madam Clerk, would you please call roll?
Honorable Sandra Wade?
Aye.
Honorable Kathy Clark? Absent. Honorable Ralph Fishler?
Aye.
Honorable Paul Baca?
Aye.
Honorable George Takei?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of times I know that these ordinances probably don't need to have a roll call, but I prefer a roll call. That way we get an actual accounting of who is actually voting for and against these items. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
The next item on our agenda this morning is unfinished business. Item G1, discussion action, live, work in downtown buildings. Manager Madrid and Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
Mayor, I'm going to defer to our Mayor Pro Tem to initiate this discussion.
Thank you.
Boy, that's chicken.
This morning.
Okay, so this discussion has been on the table, I don't know how many times in the last year and a half, 2 years. And it's basically talking about the downtown commercial district. It's the C section, and there is the issue of living in the building and working in a building. And we've had this discussion so many times about it's good to have people living downtown because they walk the downtown and it keeps it vibrant. But having somebody living in a building and have a commercial building closed on a consistent basis is more of a residential kind of reality, at least from my vantage point and several other people that I've talked to. So the real question is, we've given a couple of special use permits. I've seen one where somebody has opened up the front of a building, even though they're living in the back and are doing some commercial business, and another one where it hasn't been opened, and we gave a special use permit, and it's been several months where nothing has happened. So the idea is, do we want to make some kind of, and help me with this, Jay, I'm gonna need some help here.
Yeah, go ahead.
That if it's a commercial district, it is a commercial business that goes in there, and the courtesy is to allow somebody to live in the back. It's not vice versa. And if somebody wants to live in the downtown area, there's another street on either side of Main and Broadway that is zoned residential, and they can live in that area. But it just depends on how consistent we want to be with the definition of commercial district designations. And if that's the case, do we put some kind of restriction on a live work building that states that the commercial front end of the building is open for business X amount of time during a year, X amount of time during a week, or how we want to do that. Otherwise, we could end up with an entire commercial district that's acting like an R1 or R2 or R3 district, and you have a downtown that's closed. So the question needs to be posed, and we keep talking about this, and it's really hard to come up with a determination other than what we've done before. We asked somebody that we gave a special use permit that they would have the time to bring it up to code in the back for a living place, but they would have to have the front open, and it didn't happen. So how many more times do we want to do that? Is it something that we want to redistrict the commercial district? Or, and so I'm putting it out to all of us, that, and I don't know that I have a good answer for it, but I do believe that if it's zoned commercial, it is commercial. And the courtesy that we're giving is allowing people to live in a commercial building. And that we probably need to follow the commercial district designation or change it. And I'm opening that up to I need some help here.
And I may have some ideas about that, but it might be helpful for me to hear from the rest of the commissioners first, and then I'll jump in with some thoughts I may have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns regarding the live work issues?
Okay, I'd like to add that I agree with Commissioner Clark on this. Is, you know, we are granting people the privilege to live in the building, and there's a lot of benefits to that. It makes it easier for a small business, you know, that doesn't have a lot of income yet. They don't have to pay for their own separate apartment to live in. It's a good incentive for getting businesses started and all that. But the critical thing on this is that there needs to be a business there. And the thing I hear constantly from visitors is, you know, when are these places open? Now, you know, if a business specializes in serving breakfast and lunch, it's not reasonable to expect them to stay open until 8 o'clock in the evening. So we need to have some kind of accommodation there. But yes, I believe any time we grant a living permit, that variance to somebody, there should be some core hours attached to that. And I believe they should be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then a minimum number of hours per week. And again, depending upon the type of business, the hours may vary. But I believe when they come to us for that variance, they need to state the hours that they plan to be open, and they need to be held to those hours. And if they do not hold to those hours, we would then withdraw that variance. And I think we have to be strict on that. Again, we are doing them a favor, a great favor, by allowing them to live in these buildings. And we need to hold them, you know, they need to provide something back to us. And having open places in the, you know, helping businesses in the downtown, that's what it's all about. And I might add one more thing, is that there are a number of storefronts downtown where there is no business there. The building is just being used for storage or just left empty, and they're not even trying to find a renter for it. And I think that's something else we need to address. If it's a commercial building downtown, it should not be somebody's storage building.
Thank you, Commissioner Zaghetti. Any other questions? Commissioner Heschler.
Just a question. business opportunities, how many business licenses were applied for last year, just in your estimation, as you agree? Do you have any idea?
I'd ask the clerk, I have no idea.
I want to say,
Less than 5?
yeah, less than 5, but I'll check on it.
So I guess my question would be, we want to talk about a regulation, and how many people are we really affecting? And what do we want the downtown area to really look like? If we don't attract commercial businesses to the downtown area, and there's 3 or 4 inquiries a year, is it better served to maybe zone it residential/commercial with the idea of getting some of the downtown rehab and getting it inhabited and getting it rebuilt? And that's just a question. I'm not really, I haven't really made my mind up about that yet, but, you know, it seems to me that if we want to have a facelift of the downtown area, or if we want to upgrade it about the downtown area, we may want to broaden our horizons a little bit of what we will allow down there. And that's kind of a discussion point, if anybody has anything to think of that.
Commissioners, you both hit it right on the head, because what we have allowed is something that's been a detriment to 2 things: economic development and tourism, because our downtown areas, the downtown areas are a gem. They really are. But the unoccupied buildings that look like they're abandoned are not. And it's really going to take the entire community to get behind, do we want to develop our downtown or don't we? The city's role can be to develop and vary the incentives that we provide for businesses. We need to rethink that. We do have some incentives for utilities, but we can broaden those to make them adaptable to individual businesses. We are losing population. We've had businesses close and not been replaced, and we're losing jobs. We need to address all those 3 things just to maintain what we have. But we need to develop a plan. When you said downtown rehabilitation, that's exactly the overall type of plan that we need. And Commissioner, when you talk about revoking the privilege, that's exactly right. I think we need to develop a strict set of guidelines or rules on the rule side, and a decent set of incentives on the motivation side. So with that, one of the conferences that I'll be going to will be tomorrow for economic development in rural areas. And how do we do this? How do we attract not only jobs but businesses into rural communities like we are? We're not going to get an Intel plant here, but as Commissioner Zagani pointed out at the last meeting, we could get a processor of natural hemp products. We could get people that build surfboards, things that are adaptable to our local area, that are green, that are environmentally friendly, that we have the workforce to supply. We haven't done any of that yet. I think we start off with a live-work analysis, absolutely, but I think it's a piece of a whole plan that we need to look at, and we need to do it as a community. I think we have different organizations going after different things, and we're not focused. And that's one of the things I think that the city should do, and I will personally undertake, is to get our groups unified to focus on one thing. And who are we? And why should you come here? Why should you live here? Why should you visit here for a day? I think we need to re-examine all of that. But the live-work thing has been a dilemma in other places. Like Commissioner Clark, Mayor Pro Tem Clark pointed out, living there could be an advantage. the city of Albuquerque used it to their advantage in redeveloping and rehabilitating their downtown. We're not the city of Albuquerque. That's just an example of how you can take something that may not be an asset and turn it into one. But I think the process starts with us prioritizing that we need to develop a plan.
Thank you, Manager Madrid. Last week, Tracy Burnett, Ray Chavez, and myself attended the Planning and Zoning meeting in Silver City. On Thursday afternoon, we toured the downtown Silver City area, and we kind of touched a little bit about the work with issues. So we're not the only community that goes through these ordeals. And when we're looking at this, anything that we put into place, we have to look at, we can't go backwards. Am I correct, Tracy? We can't impose anything backwards. So if we've already allowed someone to come and live and work in a building, you know, they're kind of, in a sense, I know the word's not supposed to be used anymore, but they're kind of grandfathered in. But you would also think that these people that are already in these buildings would kind of reinforce the buildings, that they would remodel the buildings per se. If the walls are falling down, that they would make sure that the walls are sturdy, the paint jobs on the building, to make the downtown look nice. So, you know, I know a lot of people get excited when we talk about this, especially the ones that are already downtown, but this is kind of a process that we need to look at going forward. How do we attract businesses? How do we allow the people downtown? And again, you know, I drive through town a lot of times. There are a lot of vacant buildings. The windows need to be cleaned. Can't the owners come in and at least wash the windows, maybe put something decorative in the windows so that when people do, our tourists come through town, that they can see that, no, yeah, nobody lives or works out of these buildings, but they're still being maintained. They're not just falling down and dilapidating amongst us, you know. So again, this is something that we're looking at, we're looking into, and we're trying to see how we can better our community. Again, I received a copy of the ordinance of the Silver City ordinance of the live-work area, so I haven't had time to review that, but I hope we can get some ideas. Each one of us have received a copy of it. Hopefully we can get some ideas from that. Again, we don't want to distract anybody from coming to town. We don't want to distract anybody that's in the downtown area, but our downtown area is an asset to our community. Not only our downtown area, but the whole city. So those are just kind of my thoughts and words that I got out of our meeting yesterday. Tracy, do you have anything else you would like to add to that, or?
No, I agree. It is a difficult situation in all municipalities.
Yeah.
So we need to make a determination and push forward.
Right. And Ray, do you have anything that?
I'd like to add a couple more things. I remember this subject, you know, it's been bouncing around for several years, and on a previous time that it was discussed, it was brought up that in Old Mesilla, in Las Cruces, the leases, the landlord's leases actually state that the businesses are supposed to be open on certain days. They will not lease a building. And I think we should maybe be reaching out to the landlords and talking to them about, because, you know, the leasing has, that's another avenue to keep these things open. The other thing, we were just up in Old Town in Albuquerque yesterday, and Manager Madrid's comment reminded me of this one shop owner. He makes custom soaps. He manufactures them in the building there, and then has a shop in the front where he sells them. And they're open 7 days a week, and by 10 in the morning, they're open for business. And he's open every day, and He has to hire somebody to cover the shop on the days when he is not there. But he does it because he realizes the importance of having regular and consistent hours. And that's the way they grow their business. We got there just after 10 o'clock yesterday morning, and probably 70% of the businesses were open on a Tuesday, okay? And the ones that weren't open, they were open by 11. And there were perhaps a handful of the restaurants that were closed that day, but the majority of them were all open. And there was a sizable crowd wandering around already by 10:30. And I know we are not Albuquerque, we are not, Silver City, but we have people coming to the spas, they get up in the morning, and we need to have something for them to do in the downtown area rather than having them to head out of town or up to North Date Street, even just to get breakfast. And I think whatever we can do to incentivize the businesses to have more hours, to have consistent hours. I mean, that's the other thing that people comment to us, business has posted that it's open these hours, but when they show up, they're not open. Again, I don't know how much we can do as a commission, but I think we need to be working with the businesses, with the landowners, and with the Chamber of Commerce to coordinate and encourage these people, to be better businessmen. I think in the long run, regular hours, consistent hours, it'll benefit the city and it'll benefit the businesses.
Thank you, Commissioner Zagetti. Any further questions?
Yeah,
Attorney Rubin.
let me see if I can maybe just make a couple observations. And before I do that, let me just make sure I'm getting proper legal clarification about really what we're talking about. Commissioner Zagetti, you were talking about, you said that you used the word variance a little while ago. I think we're talking about special use permits.
Okay.
Is that correct, Tracy? If someone wants to live in the building, they apply for a special use permit, correct?
Correct.
And I think the obvious legal thinking is, okay, this is a commercially zoned area, but I want to live there, and that's the special use I'm seeking to obtain. Now, interestingly, if you look at our code, we actually have some good language already in there, which we can maybe build upon. I'm looking at section 11-5-6, special use permit. And let me just read you a couple things that already are set forth in the code. Under A, provisions for special use permit, number 1 reads, in making a decision on a special use permit, the Planning and Zoning Commission, of course in this case, it's the City Commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Commission shall review the following factors and accord each factor the necessary weight on a case-by-case basis. So you have that. And then number 2 reads, special use permits should not be granted in such cases where the use will result in negative impacts, which substantially outweigh the positive impacts of the purposed use. So already that gives you the authority that when someone appears in front of you and is seeking to obtain a special use permit and indicates they want to live there, I believe you already have the authority actually to, on a case-by-case basis, determine what the building is going to be used for, what's your plans for operation, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I probably might suggest, though, that if you like where I'm headed with this, we might want to still amend that code just to make it clear that if we're talking about a live-work situation, that there's factors we want to consider, and that our ordinance doesn't really quite say that, so that might be something that we would look at. So if you're interested in looking at this, maybe Manager Madrid and I can get together and maybe come up with some additional language that we can add. So I think that's the good news. I think you already have some good language here. On the other hand, you may say, well, I really don't like a case-by-case basis. I want to have it uniform throughout the code. That's something else we could talk about also. But I just want you to know that I think you have some good. We have some good teeth already here in the code. It's just a question of really maybe just enforcing it, that when someone does come in front of you, that we're very clear that these are the things you have to follow in order for the permit to be granted. If you aren't following the provisions of the special use permit granting, you're subject to having it revoked. So those are just ideas that I'm thinking.
Thank you, Attorney Rubin.
So-
Mayor Pro Tem Clark.
A couple of things. On a C1 district, if you change the use of a building, my understanding is that the building needs to be brought up to code, correct?
If you change the use of the building,
Yeah.
and I don't have the code in front of me, but that.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm kind of thinking that that's
And
correct.
you change the use of the building, in other words, you use it.
If somebody's doing like a hardware store and then it gets rented out to somebody who's doing an art store, then the use of the building has changed. And my understanding is that it has to be brought up to code. Do you know anything about that?
Both building code and fire code.
Okay.
Okay,
So that's
if it
correct.
makes sense.
That one right there, I
Okay.
think is an issue.
All right.
Because we had a problem with that about 12, 13 years ago, 14 maybe. The other issue is, I wonder if it would be good to have a workshop, invite the public to come in and give us some feedback and pull out the LEDA Act and see exactly, how to entice more people who would be interested in commercial business downtown, to want to rent those buildings and encourage the owners of a lot of the buildings downtown to be part of that workshop, so that we're not imposing something that is not, at least got a majority agreement. And so maybe the thing to do would be just to say right now that we're not going to give any more special use permits until we have this workshop and kind of get really clear on what we want to do with the downtown.
Works for me. Attorney Rubin?
I think that's in your discretion.
Commissioners?
I think it's a great idea. I'm not sold on the idea of a rehab. I like the idea of a business plan, keeping it positive and keeping it looking forward. So a workshop in that regard, I think would be positive for the community and might have some more participation if we framed it that way.
Yeah, and, it might be a really good idea to do it, and I'm just going to throw this out. This is probably not the perfect moment, but on the Wednesday evenings, when our manager has the open forum with the public, that it would be a good idea if we all were there at a 6 o'clock meeting with our city manager, because that's the time that most people can be available, and it works out so well having that public input and being able to see it. And I know that, a lot of times when we're doing that, a lot of things can be solved administratively, but this one is something that I think that the commission needs to be involved with, and that maybe that workshop would be a good time to do that. Help me here.
That's fine. The only thing I would say, Commissioner Clark, is I don't know, and of course, again, it's up to the discretion of the commission, and so it's really however you feel about this. I don't know that you necessarily have to impose a moratorium on special use permits while we're doing this process. I think, I would just say, if something happens to come before you in the next couple of meetings, I think you would just make sure that we're satisfied with that the building is going to be used the way you think it should be used. But that's really, again, it's your call to make that decision. I like your idea of a workshop and
I still think that, Mr. Rubin, that until we've come to kind of a consensus amongst ourselves in the community, but we probably shouldn't be doing any more special use permits or anything else until we're really clear on how we want to have the C1 operating. That's just my feeling.
that's
Thank you.
you're a commissioner. I'm glad you get
But you're the lawyer.
I don't know that really I would go that far. I don't know, but again, it's your discretion. I don't know that you actually have to have a blanket moratorium on all special use permits in case something comes up that might interest you.
Well, we could put it off.
That's up to you. That's up to you.
If it came in front of us, we could put it off. So maybe let's not do the moratorium. We'll just know that we're going to postpone.
We'll just kind of set up a workshop. We'll talk about all avenues, and where we want to go, how we want to proceed with this. Because one may be better than the other. The public may have different comments than we have. They may have something we like compared to what we're suggesting. So I think that a workshop would be wonderful to have, and hopefully the community, especially the people in the downtown area, the owners of the businesses will come to these meetings and give us their input and their ideas and their thoughts. And not just the businesses. I see we have a room full of law enforcement officers. We're up for your comments and ideas also. I mean, because you guys patrol the areas at night, you patrol the areas in the day, and so you see a lot of the activity downtown, and you could come up with ideas of how we could better our downtown area, and not only our downtown area, again, our whole community. So, what do we need to do?
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, I want to remind you that you did charge Mill Street with kind of having a little public comment. I don't remember receiving anything from that. I'd be willing to ask her if there were any additional comments she got from that as well.
And we would like to invite everyone, Main Street, the Chamber of Commerce, just anybody. I mean, everybody's affected with the downtown area. So this is an open, public workshop for everyone that has ideas and ways and means to make our community better. So at this time,
So I think we ought to just let the manager and the clerk try to work out a timing schedule
That would
for a
be-
workshop.
we can do that,
Make certain that the entire community is invited,
correct?
and particularly owners of businesses downtown, and the tenants of businesses downtown. Anyone who would be, personally affected also is particularly critical, I think. And we won't put a moratorium on anything, but we will know that until we've come to a consensus on how we really want that to work.
And is that the form of a motion?
This is the longest motion I've ever made in my life.
And can I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that, but don't ask me to
That
repeat
long?
it.
Hopefully Clerk Canton got all of that.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to put this back to the manager, the attorney, the clerk, to
For a
schedule
workshop.
workshop and go forward with this. Again, we invite everyone to this meeting. Once it is scheduled, we will let everyone know. It'll be on our Facebook, it'll be on the internet, it'll be just everywhere. Please, please, tell your neighbors and friends to attend these meetings because it is valuable information that we can get from you. After all that, do I have, all those in favor signify, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify
Was that
by
in
saying
addition
aye.
to my motion?
No. That was my comment.
Aye.
Aye. All those in
Aye.
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I make one more comment? For anyone who, for whatever reason, is not able to attend this workshop, I want to encourage everybody to feel free at any time to bring their opinions, their thoughts, their criticisms to any of the commissioners or the city manager. We are always here, and you have a concern, come and talk to us. You can put things out on social media and everything, and that's fine, but if you really want to have something done about it, bring it to us, because that's how things get resolved, by bringing them to the commissioners and to the city manager.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good comment.
All right, our next item on the agenda is H1, under new business. Discussion action, consider the recommendation of the Library Advisory Board to appoint Angie Torres as a new member. City Manager Madrid.
With the recommendation of the board, I ask for your approval, Mayor Commissioners.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns? Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation to the Library Advisory Board to appoint Angie Torres as a new member?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation. Although, is there any further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on our agenda this morning is reports. I-1, City Manager.
Mayor and Commissioners, I have a few items to report today. The first one is, at our next meeting, we will be welcoming our new police chief, Michael Apodaca, who will start work on October 1st. I want to thank Chief Baker for her service in the interim and her service overall, and I know I didn't call the meeting, Chief. Would you tell us why our staff are here? It's good to see you all, by the way.
Nice, thank you guys for all being here.
I'm glad it's not a raid.
Yeah, we were wondering what we did.
Good morning, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners, Mr. Madrid. All the officers are here on their own accord, and it was just to show the community that we 100% support the decision that was made, and we're super excited that Chief Apodaca is coming back, and we just appreciate the community and the commission through this time, and we're very happy with the decision that was made. So we're just here to show support.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you for all you do for our community.
You know, one thing that I really discovered, Mayor, going through a process, is that no matter who their coach is, this is a wonderful team. And they are bound together, and they are dedicated, and they are loyal to each other, and they are also loyal to the community. And thank you.
Thank you, guys.
The next report that I wanted to make is a few things that we're exploring along with our conversion to AMI and electric meters. We are also looking into the conversion of our lights, our street lights, to LED. We budgeted for a portion of that this year, and we're looking at the different types of lights, the different patterns of light, the different colors of light. So that'll be undertaken by the end of the calendar year, and it may be in stages. It's going to depend on the cost, but we are looking at that right now. I have some good news for our golf course. Our golf course manager, Bart River, is completing all his requirements to get his Class A professional card. So we can say we have a golf professional. And I was there on Sunday, and he had a group of probably more than a dozen 7 to 11-year-olds learning the game of golf. So we're not only developing the golf course, he's developing the game, and he's going to stay with us. So you really need two things to be successful, and that's interest in the course and interest in the game. And Bart's doing a great job developing both. The other thing is we will be bringing up a new human resource, not necessarily recruiting, but hiring system. It's called NeoGov, and it's a paperless method to accept resumes and applications and screen your employees. It's internet-based. It's used by the New Mexico State Personnel Board for the hiring of all state employees in the state of New Mexico. It's very, very economical. It's a few $1,000s subscription per year. It will virtually eliminate our paper applications. People will have the option to do paper applications. They'll still have the option to come into the office and get assistance applying through the internet, filling out our forms. The nice thing about this system is that you can put in your qualifications and your education and your experience in one time, and from there forward you can select to apply for different jobs. This will help us with our recruiting in the area for people that just can't drive in to fill out a paper application, or all they have is their phone. You can apply for a job on your phone. So that's one of the other things we'll be doing. in the next couple of weeks. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Manager Madrid. Attorney Rubin, do you have a report?
No, I do not, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Zagetti, do you have a report?
Something just occurred to me. We had a couple of significant rain events here in the last couple of weeks. I don't think anybody that didn't notice that. And, we've had a lot of issues with the roads. A lot of the leaks, water line leaks that were patched, the dirt washed out of the holes, so there's a lot of bumps and holes in there. And I know our street department is, doing their best to get everything cleaned up and get out, and I just urge everybody to be patient. We've got a lot of streets to cover and very few people to handle all that work. But every time we have a rain, we have a significant amount of debris that gets washed out in the roads. Much of it comes from our alleys, but a lot of it comes from the properties as well. And I'm thinking maybe in the future we need to have a discussion about that. Something that could be done with the grading of the alleys, perhaps to prevent the erosion. And I know there are towns where they actually have regulations on properties to encourage people to do erosion prevention or detention on their own properties to help eliminate that problem. And I think that's maybe something we should be considering here in the future. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Hessler.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Last meeting, Mayor, you tasked me with the development of the rating sheet for the city manager, and I've come up with that form. I'd like to pass it out to the fellow commissioners and one for Renee as well.
Thank you.
And I'll just go real quick if you have a couple of minutes. So this is something we developed a couple of years ago. I changed a couple of slight things on it, but it's a rating sheet for the new city manager. The rating scores are 1 through 5. They're unacceptable. 1, 2 is conditional, 3 is satisfactory, 4 is exceptional, 5 is outstanding. There's 10 blocks that we will rate the city manager under, which include supervision, leadership, execution of policy, community relations, administrative duties, economic development, intergovernmental relations, city commission relations, planning, and budget. And at the end, I also have some general comments block for people for our commission that wants to say anything generally about the city manager and how he's doing, what the expectations are, what they would like to see, et cetera, et cetera. What I would like to say is that each spot should be rated by the commission. Get these things together. If you'd like to collect them, there is fine, or I can collect them. If there's a rating of 1 or 5, either end of the spectrum, I would like to see an explanation of why, so that we don't just give a bad rating or a good rating and then not qualify it or quantify it. So, the ones in the middle, it's understandable, but we still would like to see, and I know that Mr. Madrid would like to see some comments. If he's doing a great job, he'd like to know why and how. If he's doing a poor job, I know he'd like to know why, so he can correct it. And so it's up to us as commissioners to put some detail in these blocks as we can, and so that when we do present it to the manager, he has something that he can work off of, so that we can improve for the community. The last page, was submitted by Manager Madrid, and these are his goals over the next year. If we have some additional goals that we would like to add as a commission, please send me an email or a text, or give me some information that I can add them to the list. Interestingly enough, these goals, we won't rate them over this time because we just established these goals. But next year, for the new commission, Manager Madrid's going to want to realize these goals, and maybe do a presentation on the achievement of these goals and where we are. And if we have any additional goals that we'd like to see for the community, we should add those to our goals here, so that Manager Madrid has some guidelines, some general goals to work for course of the next year. So I'll be reaching out to you folks over the next week or so to give you some additional information so I can finalize this. And then, Mayor, I don't know when you'd like to actually do the presentation. Is it in January that we do the evaluation, or?
I think we're gonna plan on doing it sooner. You know, the holidays are coming up. We usually only have one meeting, November and December. So we would kind of like to get this evaluation done, and this contract and everything done in a timely fashion before January. And January is just right next door to us already. So, I'm looking probably by, Mayor Pro Tem Clark, kind of the second meeting in October.
November, or the second meeting in October.
Second meeting in October, we'll kind of have this all in place, and then we'll do, in November, correct? And then we'll be done, hopefully,
We'll be done.
and move forward.
All right, well, I'll be reaching out to each
So that's kind of our
each one of
goals.
you then, to get me some additional input. And then we'll set a timeline for the actual grading of it, and then we can submit them individually to the mayor so that, she can put them together, and then if you'd like, I'll average them out, and see what the average scores are, and we can do a presentation.
I have a question, Mayor and Commissioner Heschler. Putting this out like this is not an executive session, and I think it is maybe a courtesy that the public knows how we are looking at our city manager. And so these questions that you've put together, including the list of goals when it's completed, that just as a courtesy, that it's put somewhere, it's either available in the city clerk's office or to whomever might want to understand what we're looking at when we go into a closed session with a review of an at-will employee, that this is what we're looking at specifically, that it's not a surprise to anybody. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And that's the reason I wanted to present it in this form.
It's brilliant. I've never seen it done like this
Nice job.
before, and I
Thank you,
think it's a really good idea.
Thank you.
Commissioner Clark, or Mayor Pro Tem Clark, do you have a?
I do. I have a couple of things. First thing is, I would like to have everybody here from the PD department stand up. And here's what I want to say. I was raised with a military dad, and I've watched you guys for years. And I've seen you when you're building floods, I've seen you when you have to back each other up, and I've seen you with the trust that if one of you went into the bunker, you all would go in together. And I just want to tell you, it's something that's so incredible to me personally, that you guys are like that. You're very fortunate to have each other. And I want to say thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Don't leave yet, because I have one more comment.
She's not done. I also want to make a comment that I want to thank Mayor Whitehead and Manager Madrid, because they came up with the idea of having this public comment on the evenings once a month. And the best part about it is, from my perspective, is that a lot of the issues that come up from the public can be handled administratively, where a single commissioner, if we hear it, we can't do anything unless it comes in front of all of us. And so what I've noticed personally is fewer phone calls to me directly, because the channel has been opened up based on what the mayor and the manager have done, and I want to thank you both for having done that, because I really do believe that it's been an incredible asset and an opening to the community to have better communication and be able to get something done in a timely fashion, as opposed to having to wait for us to meet 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it is. So thank you to you two.
Thank you.
I guess that I'm going to shut up. I'm just going to call it a day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Baca, do you have a report?
The only thing I had a question was on that note with the police. ladies and gentlemen, how's the radio situation coming up on that? Did we get that fixed?
No, the permanent fix is gonna take a little while. The temporary fix we're working on, and that's the placement of, temporary repeaters. Did I have that right, Orlando?
I just got the phone with RCC yesterday. We got all the system in. We're getting the plan by next week. We'll be installed.
Thank you.
Those will be temporary until we get the permanent infrastructure in, but we'll be coming in.
Permanent.
This will be the permanent one?
Permanent.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Got all our pieces in, so we'll have the permanent, they'll put it together, and then they will be down here to install it, we're hoping by next week.
Nice.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. And my report this morning is, on top of, Mayor Pro Tem Clark's comment regarding the workshop, the public meeting with Manager Madrid. Again, we did that, I suggested that to alleviate a lot of people just coming forward again, and speaking for their 3 minutes, and then we not responding to them, or it was, again, like she said and Manager Madrid said, it was something administratively that could have been taken care of. So, this doesn't completely take away your speaking at public comment. Remember, if you have anything that you want to talk about, and it falls on the day that we don't have public comment, contact the city clerk's office, the city manager, and put in a commission request, an action request, so that you can get on the agenda and bring your comment to the forefront, and then we can talk about it. So again, I think this is working out very well. I haven't heard any complaints, other than sometimes very few complaints, but I like it because it does happen. He has a one-on-one conversation with the individual that comes before him, not only for 3 minutes, but sometimes for 15 minutes. So I feel that the community and the manager are working very well together, and everything is working out. Remember, if this never works out, or if it fails one of these days, we can always look at going back to putting public comment on the agenda again, for both meetings. But remember, we don't have to allow public comment. That's a privilege for the community to have public comment. So again, thank you all. My next report is, I would like to thank everyone that helped out on September 10th, the evening of September 10th, when we got that drastic rain.
Including you.
I was driving through town just to check out the water situation, and I had seen something in the road at 3rd and Date Street, and there was a lot of traffic at that time. So I proceeded to go to the PD office, and I saw some activity, and I thought, gee, what's going on here? So I pulled over to explain what I'd seen in the road so they could go remove it, and they said that the office had flooded, and I said, well, let me park and come in and help, see what's going on. And literally, we were swimming, we were wading in water in every office, and and I want to thank everyone that participated. I know that David Johnson was there. I'm not good at all the names of the people that were there. There were some that we had to call out for brooms and mops and sweepers and everything. And I know that some of the officers had to stay the night in there because we had a special crew coming in. I want to thank you all for that. I would like to thank Chief Baker for everything you did. I know that you were probably at home in your comfy chair, but you pulled everything together and came back and were there, and I hope we got at least a lot of the water out. I mean, we didn't lose any equipment, right? Everything was good, everything was safe.
We lost a monitor and a keyboard and a mouse. It's the only equipment we actually that got destroyed. Everything
Wow.
else we were able to.
Nice, but there was a lot of water, and I would like to, again, thank everybody that participated and just kind of came on board as a team, like Mayor Pro Tem said. We come together as a team, we work together as a team, and that was a great thing. I mean, a little water and a little broom didn't hurt me at all, you know, of course I was swishing it everywhere, but that worked out, and again, thank you all for that. I do know that we've had several water leaks, in our community. I mean, the guys are working, the water crew's working very hard at getting these water leaks fixed, and, they start fixing one and three more happen and whatnot. I just got word the other day that not only do our city employees, our current city employees help out, but we have to thank sometimes our retired city employees. Remember, these retired city employees work a long time with us, and they know where everything is at and where everything needs to be turned on and turned off, whether it be the pump station, whether it be this pump or that pump or the road or whatever. These retired guys are not hands-on, but you're just a phone call away. And I think that we need to thank those that are helping. I do know that David Cook is retired, has been retired for a while, but our employees never fail to call David because David knows exactly what valve and what system needs to be worked on. And again, a big thank you to them, to not only David, but any of the other retired employees that come out. And again, that's a team. When you live in a community and you become a team player, you're always a team player. So again, that's the end of my report. I will shut up and we will move on. All right, the next item on our agenda this morning is item J, executive session. Looks like we've deleted J1, which is real property. We do not have anything to discuss on that. So the next item is J2, limited personnel matters, various
Mayor,
positions.
I don't think that we have a need for that anymore.
Oh, okay,
I think, this was intended to be.
perfect. So we don't have the need for real property.
Executive
No
session,
executive session.
No executive session at
No
all?
need for executive
Oh,
session.
perfect. So then I guess
because Commissioner
yeah.
Heschler brought this up.
So then I guess
Transparently.
Good.
I guess
Yes.
we're done.
Transparently.
Transparency.
Thank you.
Wow.
The next item on our agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you,
So-
guys.
I
Have a
so
great day.
move.
Do I have a second?
You guys
Motion
are
and
great.
second
Thanks
to
for being
adjourn.
here.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Goodbye and have a great day.
Thanks for being here.